the obsession with Africa's population growth.
For decades, Western nations have expressed alarm over Africa's rapidly growing population, framing it as a challenge to global stability. At the same time, many of these nations actively encourage population growth within their own borders, offering financial incentives to increase birth rates. This apparent contradiction raises an important question. Why is the West so concerned about Africa's population, and what lies beneath this obsession? While migration and resource strain are often cited as reasons, these explanations fail to address the deeper motives at play. The real reasons extend far beyond migration policies and reflect geopolitical, economic, and ideological interests designed to maintain Western dominance. 1. Control over resources. Africa is rich in natural resources: minerals, oil, agricultural land, and more. Resource competition. A growing population increases domestic demand for these resources, potentially limiting their availability for export. This could disrupt the global supply chains that Western economies depend on. Access to cheap labor. Depopulating or destabilizing Africa reduces competition for control over resources and ensures Western dominance in trade negotiations. 2. Maintaining geopolitical dominance. A growing and prosperous Africa could challenge Western global influence. Economic power. A larger, more developed African population could translate into stronger economies, reducing dependence on Western aid and loans. Political independence. Population growth could empower Africa to demand fairer terms in international trade and politics, diminishing Western leverage. Competition with China. China's deep investment in Africa is seen as a threat to Western influence, and slowing African growth might hinder China's long-term gains. The myth of overpopulation. The idea of overpopulation is often used to shift focus away from systemic inequality. Blame game. Framing Africa's population growth as a problem avoids addressing how global systems disproportionately exploit African resources and labor. Misdirection. It diverts attention from the West's responsibility for climate change, resource extraction, and unequal wealth distribution, instead placing the burden on African demographics. 4. Historical mindset and racism. Western obsession with African depopulation can also stem from colonial-era attitudes. Fear of a black majority. Historically, Western powers have feared being outnumbered by the global South, particularly African nations. Eugenics and neo-Malthusian ideas. These ideologies still linger, subtly promoting population control policies in Africa under the guise of development or sustainability. 5. Fear of a united young workforce. Africa's youthful population is its greatest potential strength. Labor market competition. A growing African workforce could undercut Western dominance in global labor markets, especially in tech and manufacturing. Military power. A young, populous Africa could develop stronger militaries, reducing Western dominance in global security. The Western obsession with Africa's population isn't just about developmental delays, poverty, or migration, but about maintaining control over resources, power, and global systems. Depopulating Africa ensures 1. Resources remain available for exploitation. 2. African nations stay economically dependent. 3. The global balance of power favors the West,